Welcome into the Birds of the Round Table. The Philadelphia Eagles are 2-0 going into the mini bye. Have a Monday night game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week. We are here to break down the Eagles-Vikings game and get you guys some information you need to know about the top matchups in this Eagles-Buccaneers game on Monday Night Football. I am your host for this podcast, Shane Haff. Give me a follow on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined, as always, by the best co-hosts that are out there. We'll start at the top here. We've got Dives. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Be sure you check out his podcast, Party on Broad. Dives, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. I just want to say I hosted for you last week, and you're already 1,000 times better than I was. Introducing the show as Birds of the Round Table and not Party on Broad like I am foolishly done. So a lot to talk about here, Eagles versus Vikings, but we've got some juicy matchups to watch here against the Bucs, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, well, I will say, we got a nice gif out of your introduction last week. Clowning Ryan, who is not with us today. Ryan's a little under the weather, so he's phoning in his picks. We've got some of his picks here, but also joined by David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. Check out his written work at PhillyCoverCorner.com. David, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I was happy to enjoy a weekend without the Eagles so I could watch some other teams play, which was educational. I learned that the tush push is unstoppable unless you're Jordan Love and the Packers. That was a really interesting play. And I'm glad that we got a new punter in town, albeit he's probably about the same as the one that just left. But, hey, cheers to new beginnings.
All right. I realized we buried the lead here a little bit because Birds of the Round Table has a Twitter account. So you guys can go follow our Twitter account at roundtablebirds.com on Twitter. I'll drop that here in the comments when I'm not talking because I can't talk and type at the same time. We'll try to tweet out clips. We'll obviously use it to retweet some of our stuff, but it can be sort of a central hub for Birds of the Round Table things. So you guys go check that out on Twitter at roundtablebirds. So guys, let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to start with our top takeaways against the Minnesota Vikings. Dives, I'm going to go to you and let you lead us off while I drop the Twitter handle here.
For me, it was the new Eagles duo of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, man. I think Josh Sweat was terrific. He had 8 pressures, the most he's had in his career. But, you look at Jalen Carter, he has a better pressure percentage than Josh Sweat at 18.6% on pass blocking snaps. Carter leads all interior defensive linemen this season with 11 quarterback pressures on 59 pass rush snaps. Third most total pressures in the NFL through 2 weeks, man. Jalen Carter's been absolutely nuts. And then Davis, he had 2 pressures and a sack on 11 pass drops in week 2, man. Jordan Davis has just had a phenomenal stretch here. And that's what's got me so excited. This duo that's 23 and 22 years old, man. Yes, it's a small sample size, but the Eagles defensive line is averaging 12.5 pressures per game in 2023. They averaged 9.9 pressures per game in 2022. Yeah, they had issues getting home in week 1. But I'm loving what I'm seeing. The evolution of Jordan Davis just becoming an unbelievable pass rusher, again, was not on my Eagles bingo card. So I'm really excited about those two just continuing to dominate the opposition, man. What an unbelievable upside potential these two have for the next 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Dibes, Jalen Carter has a 17.9% pressure rate through 2 games. It's a small sample size, but do you know where that would rank among defensive tackles last year?
It's got to be top 10.
It's first.
Oh, my gosh.
First place was 14%. You know who was first place?
Who?
Javon Hargrave.
But wasn't that like the – oh, go ahead.
I was going to say Jalen Carter just, better, cheaper Javon Hargrave. So better against the run, and apparently he's a better pass rusher too.
Well, but that was a question, who's going to replace Hargrave? You've got Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis that are playing out of their damn mind, man. How exciting is that?
Yeah, very exciting, and especially exciting, as you mentioned, seeing Jordan Davis take that next step, I mean, that was projection. It was projection to say that he could develop into a pass rusher. And, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, but he's looked really good through 2 weeks. He's made a huge impact in the run game. He actually leads the Eagles in sacks. And so if those two guys can continue to play at that level, I mean, the sky's the limit for this pass rush. So,
yeah.
And Davis is doing that in very limited snaps, too. He's not on the field very often.
Yes, yeah, and that's something to monitor throughout the season. Conditioning has always been an issue for Davis, and at a certain size, your body can only stand up to so much. So, what we're seeing from Jordan Davis right now is great. I want to still be able to see it in December and January, and so that's a huge thing for me if he can sustain that.
Yeah, my take is just keep that rotation, baby. Dude, I'm good with the limited snaps. Just keep these guys healthy, especially Jordan Davis, man. You remember last year, he had a few weeks in a row where he really started to cook, and then he got hurt, and then it was pretty much the end there. Then the Eagles kind of added some vets, but keep that rotation going. I'm good with everything I'm seeing from the defensive line.
Yeah. All right. So that's Dives. David, what was your big takeaway from the Vikings game?
It was mainly the O-line. Just they make everybody look good. I mean, Swift had a big game, and he didn't even get touched until he was 6-7 yards in the hole on 2/3 of his rushes, and then after that he just carries people a couple yards. I mean, even Boston ran 5 times for 40 yards. He was averaging 8 a clip. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But my biggest takeaway from all that, though, is that a lot of the national media is talking about how the offense hasn't clicked yet. No, this is a team that's getting 430 yards in offense. And that just tells you how great they really are, that this isn't even good yet. This isn't even in sync. The passing game's not even clicking. This is just O-line, smash mouth, old style football that they're just relying to win. And once Brian Johnson realized, hey, I don't even have to do any of this. I can just keep handing the ball off. I mean, it was game over after that point. And that's my biggest takeaway. It's just been amazing to watch that just dictate every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. The offense hasn't clicked yet, but the Eagles are 2-0, and you look around at other teams. Chiefs 1-1, Bills 1-1. I mean, the Jets lose their quarterback. They're also 1-1. The Bengals are 0-2, and you look around at other contenders, and it hasn't been pretty necessarily like it has been for, say, the Dolphins, who have looked spectacular, or the Cowboys, who have looked spectacular, albeit played no one. The Eagles are 2-0. The offense is fully healthy. The defense has been banged up, but as far as I know, everybody but Nakobe Dean should be back for Monday night, I think. I mean, concussion protocol, you should clear. Reed Blankenship's rib injury, you would think would be fine by then. So you can be fairly full strength, and I think you're going to be fine there. So that's a big one for me. Okay, is it bad on Birds of the Roundtable for my big takeaway to be about the Vikings? Because I want to share with you the most Kirk Cousins stat of all Kirk Cousins stats you've ever seen, and that's this. Kirk Cousins is the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 700 yards with a 70+% completion percentage in the first 2 games of the season and not have a win. Just total empty stats. It's the Kirk Cousins thing of all time. I thought that was really funny when I saw it. But I'm going to cheat because I'm the host and I get to. But I had 2 big takeaways, one on each side of the ball. One is that the Eagles are finding answers for the blitz. I did an all-22 video about it. Hurts was 8 of 11 for 153 yards and a touchdown against the blitz on Sunday. They're starting to build in answers that is not just Jalen Hurts scrambling. And a lot of it's throwing to running backs. A lot of it was they used Dallas Goedert over the middle on quick hitches and curls against some of the pressure packages the Vikings were bringing. So I think they're starting to figure out things against the blitz. Now, the new wrinkle is the Vikings also dropped 8 into coverage on 40% of the snaps. And although Hurts was 10 of 12 against Max drop, it was only for 40 yards and he had an interception. So something else that they're going to have to figure out, a puzzle they're going to have to solve. But that's on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, my takeaway is that Nicholas Morrow looked far better than Nakobe Dean did. And the linebackers were much more functional in game 2 than in game 1. Zach Cunningham's still a problem in coverage, good in the run game, but Nicholas Morrow flashed as a blitzer. I thought he had some good moments in coverage. And all in all, I mean, if Dean's healthy, you play Morrow and Dean next to each other, I think. But if you had to pick one, Morrow has turned in the better game so far this season, in my opinion.
Too soon.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's all we've got going off of 2 games, but I would love to see those 2 guys next to each other. Especially, that was concerning. It's something we talked about in the preseason. How are you going to hold up against the run with 2 really light linebackers like that? The run hasn't been a problem at all. The defensive front's playing spectacular behind Dybes' point, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. If you can sustain it, I'd love to see Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow next to each other. And I think you could be fine against the run.
Agreed.
Okay, let's turn the page. Or anybody else have anything that they want to throw out about the Vikings game before we move on to the next one?
No, man, let's get into it.
All right, well, let's get into it. Eagles versus Buccaneers, top matchups to watch. Dybes, I'll let you lead us off again.
Oh, wait.
Oh, shit. And I've been demoted now. I've been demoted now as the best show host because I totally forgot about our video. So, Dybes, you're the real MVP. You got this stuff on lock. So go ahead. Tell me, who's your top matchup to watch in the Bucs game?
Let's do this. For me, it's got to be the Eagles defensive backs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers. There it is. For me, you look at Avonte Maddox being out. You look at Mario Goodrich and his name being called last week. The question is, will he respond on Monday Night Football? Mario Goodrich allowed 6 receptions on 6 targets in week 2. He also had 2 missed tackles and a passer rating allowed of 147.9. As of right now, it feels like you're going to get a mix of Bradbury, Evans, and Goodrich in that slot role against the Bucs. When you look at the Bucs playmakers, this could be a huge advantage in favor of Tampa Bay. Mike Evans, we all know he's an elite downfield threat. The dude had hauled in 6 of his 8 targets for 171 receiving yards and a touchdown last week in a victory over the Bears. Then you get to Chris Godwin, who is just simply the model of consistency. He leads the league with 50 or more receiving yards in 10 straight games. But when you look at where the Bucs might try to take advantage of the Eagles, especially in that slot, Godwin has lined up in the slot more and more every single year he entered the NFL. 14% of his snaps during his rookie year, 57% of his snaps in 2020, 61% of his snaps in 2021, and 66% this last year. He's kind of taken on more of an outside threat role in 2023. But if I'm the Bucs, if I'm going to attack this Eagles defensive backfield, man, I think they should, really utilize Chris Godwin and take advantage of some of these mismatches. And also an underrated player to watch in this game could be rookie Trey Palmer. This guy ran 70% of his routes in the slot in week 2. So keep an eye on that guy. But for me, of all the things we just kind of praised the Philadelphia Eagles, the coverage has been my biggest concern. So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, can the Eagles slow down those 2? And if the Eagles can make the Bucs one-dimensional, I really like their odds.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. The Bucs don't have a great rushing attack. And so if you can take away the passing game, and what are your guys' thoughts on how do you handle the cornerback room with Avonte Maddox out? I'm pretty well on the record that I would have James Bradbury in the slot, especially for a game like this where Mike Evans is going to be in the slot a decent amount, and keep Josh Jobe on the outside. But is that kind of what you guys are thinking as well, or would you like to see it handled a little differently?
it's not going to be Eli Ricks. It's they brought in that new guy. He's more of an boundary cornerback. I like your idea, man. I think that makes the most sense. I would really limit Goodrich this week. And yes, Godwin does play in the slot. He's played it less this year than the last few years. But I think that could change in week 3 with this kind of depending on how this plays out.
Godwin's taken 39 snaps in the slot, and he's taken 72 snaps out wide so far this season.
Yep.
So, and let's see, I can pull up Mike Evans real quick, but he goes in the slot as well. Well, I thought I could pull him up. He disappeared. There he is. So Mike Evans so far this year has played, looks like 15 snaps in the slot, and he's played 85 snaps out wide. So he'll move into the slot some. He's primarily going to be out wide. Godwin will primarily be in the slot, but you can bet if Mario Goodrich is in the slot, Mike Evans is going to be in the slot a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Allison might be right in the fact that Bradbury might follow Mike Evans a lot during this game. He just wherever he goes, he's going to be right on him.
Yeah. And an Avonte Maddox injury isn't the expressed reason they had Bradbury practicing in the slot in training camp, but it was for situations like this. Mike Evans, Travis Kelce, bigger guys like that Avonte Maddox wasn't equipped to handle. So I think they'll be ready for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, David, I'll throw it to you. What is your top matchup here to watch in this game?
I went with the Bucs defense and Todd Bowles versus Jalen Hurts. The Bucs have beaten the Eagles the last 4 times they've met, including the playoff game that Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers embarrassed Jalen and the Eagles. You had Buccaneer defensive players on the hot mic stating how Jalen couldn't read their defenses. Bowles mentioned that he noticed the tendency of how Hurts had always thrown to the right, so he aligned his defense to force everything to go to the left. And Hurts has evolved into a much better player since then, and he has far fewer tendencies that can be exploited. But I think that's going to be a really, really hard chess battle, more than most people are giving credit for. After facing 2 great defensive minds in Belichick and Flores over the first 2 weeks, I put Todd Bowles right up there in that same territory. I expect them to do a lot of the same coverages that Bill used, and I expect them to see a lot of the same blitz packages that Flores did. Bowles is really good at disguising his defenses and causing chaos, and he's the main reason that they're 2-0, that defense. They've had a top 3 rush defense in 3 of the past 4 years. So the anemic passing game is going to have to get things going. Offensive coordinator Brian Johnson probably won't be able to rely on the running game like he did against Minnesota. That's not to say that you go away from doing what they do or utilize Hurts' strength like design quarterback runs, where Hurts leading the league currently in those with 15. But they definitely need to exploit the mismatches with their receivers versus the Buccaneer corners. And they have to do it quick because over the last 2 seasons, opposing defenses have blitzed the Eagles 17% of the time. The league average is only 13. So they're going to have to utilize A.J. Brown far more than he has been since he came over at the beginning of the 22 season. He's 4th overall in receiving yards with 1,575, and he's averaging a paltry 54 a game so far. So it's definitely time to get him going. The Bucs give up a little over 250 a week through the air, so the Eagles will be able to attack them and their corners and Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis. And I think I saw where Davis is currently listed as questionable. So they should be able to find some pretty big gains. And like you mentioned earlier, Shane, about protecting the blitz, they should especially succeed in those. So I'm looking forward to that. Limit the turnovers because the Eagles have won both of their games in large part due to winning the turnover battle, but so have the Bucs. They've created 5 turnovers and haven't given up any. So that'll be what the game comes down to. Hurts protecting the ball, Hurts exploiting the blitzes, and I think that's going to be the tail of the game right there.
All right. My matchup of the game to watch is going to be the Eagles pass rush against this Buccaneers the Buccaneers offensive line. They've got right guard Cody Mock. He is a rookie 2nd round pick out of North Dakota State, where he played offensive tackle, and he's kicked inside now, so he's changing positions. He's coming from FCS to the NFL, and this will be his 3rd game at a new position, at a whole new level of competition. And he's a solid pass blocker. He struggles as a run blocker. Like we said, the Buccaneers don't have much of a rushing attack, so I don't think they're going to try to go there very much. And then they've got their right tackle, Luke Godeke, He was a second-round pick in 2022. He played left guard last year, and he really struggled. He's the right tackle now this year. Through 2 games, he's given up 1 sack and had 3 flags thrown on him. So the Eagles have 3 of the top 14 defensive tackles in the league in pass rush win rate. They're going to be able to test this interior. You've got Hassan Reddick is going to be rushing off of the right side against Luke Godke. And Hassan Reddick's been off to a slow start. He's got the thumb thing. There's maybe conditioning related to being out of practices with the thumb thing, but maybe this is the game Reddick gets going. The battle of Tristan Wirfs and Josh Sweat's going to be great to watch. I think they're 2 elite players, but at the end of the day, Tampa Bay ranks 26th in pass block win rate. And that's just a recipe for disaster with a quarterback that's not good with pressure in his lap and Baker Mayfield. The Eagles need to win this game up front in the trenches on defense, and I fully expect them to do that.
Awesome.
All right, go to some comments here. You got Vita Vea and Cansey.
So good.
Good luck trying to block those 2 guys. Vita Vea,
so
legit good. Run stuff from the middle. I mean, Kalijah Cansey's played 11 snaps this year. I'm not scared of Kalijah Cansey at this point in time. But if you are, it's as a pass rusher. He can be moved in the run game. So he's also a guy, he was kind of a tweener. He's kicking outside to defensive end after being a defensive tackle in college. He's a guy I liked in the draft, but I think he's going to take some time. Baker Mayfield is due for a multiple interception game. I sure hope so.
He's looked good, man, right? Like his chemistry with Evans has been pinpoint this year, right?
Yeah, he's hitting on 70% of his passes. He has 3 touchdowns, no picks, over 100 passer rating. Yeah, he's been playing well, and he's only been sacked 1 or no times. I mean, it's been unreal.
Yeah, you want me to give you a fun Baker Mayfield stat? You guys can get a preview of this one because this is a stat I was going to drop on Chalk Talk. But Baker Mayfield has done something in Tampa Bay that Tom Brady never did.
Oh, geez.
Which is starting 2-0 and not throwing an interception in either game. Tom Brady never did that. So Baker Mayfield's off to a good start. Now, I can tell you, as an Oklahoma fan, a guy that watched him at OU, loved him at OU, don't get me wrong, this comment's on the money. He does get rattled easily at times. You didn't see it a lot in college because he could just run around. But he's like a scrambler that's not fast. He just likes to improvise. That doesn't work so much at the NFL level, and you can see him get rattled at times. So hopefully the Eagles are able to get to him early, and they're able to tee off there. Any other matchups that you guys want to watch before we move on to our X Factors?
He also holds the ball a lot longer than Mac Jones or Kirk Cousins does as well.
That's true, although he has been getting the ball out quite a bit quicker so far this year. He's like, I checked this earlier because I fully expected, just like, in my head, I know he holds the ball, and I was going to be like, he's time to throw has been 3.1 seconds. It's been 2.84, so he has been getting it out faster this year.
What did Mac Jones average? Like 2.5 against the Eagles? It was somewhere around there.
Mac was at, I think he was 2.51 or 2.52, something like that.
It was crazy. And like I said, the Bucs still have, despite that pass rush win rate, they still only given up that 1 sack all season, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's shift gears now. We've talked about the top matchups to watch. Now we're going to talk about the biggest X factors in this game. And Dives, it's been a while since you've talked, so I'm just going to throw it around the horn to you again.
Mr. Rudy Poo in the house, man. Thanks for joining, man. Long time fan of this channel. I'm cheating again, but it's Brian Johnson, just like you guys said. The offense has been clunky. Defensive coordinators aren't letting Jalen Hurts kind of RPO them to death in 2023. The Eagles have had to handle the blitz a ton these last 2 weeks, man. They faced a blitz 17% of the time since the 2022 season, which is the highest in the NFL. And like everyone just said, I thought they did a really good job in week 2, Jalen Hurts managing that blitz. And I think for me, like, I want to see Brian Johnson kind of get out of his own way again, and for the Eagles to attack the defense rather than think too hard, rather than try and outsmart themselves. The Eagles did what they did best in that second quarter against the Vikings. They ran the ball right at them, and they played their game rather than the other way around. The Buccaneers right now have the sixth highest blitz percentage at 37.8%. They are tied for the third most sacks in the league. I think Brian Johnson is the X factor because he's got to get this offensive line. He's got to get Jalen Hurts ready because Shaq Barrett, Devin White, those guys are going to have Jalen Hurts targeted and on Monday Night Football. So for me, it's Brian Johnson, and can he get this Eagles offense going? That's my X factor.
All right, David, what's your X factor for this game?
The edge rushers, aside from Sweat, all the edge rushers have just been missing from the stat sheet. All of the pressure has come from the interior defensive line, and Barnett has been a liability. He was only in 15, 16 snaps, but he gave up a sack. He missed a run assignment. And I'm also curious to know why Nolan's not in there, because if he's not healthy, then why are you giving him 6 snaps and 7 snaps? So I don't think that's the issue. So it's more likely he is healthy. It's just he just needs to take Barnett's reps, see what you have, unleash him. Because if it wasn't for the way that Dobbs had spoke earlier, that Cox and Carter and Davis have been playing and getting to the quarterbacks, the rest of the edge rushers outside of Sweat really haven't done anything. So I think that is going to have to change in order for them to slow down the passing attack that Baker, Evans, and Godwin is going to have on Monday night.
Yeah, Nolan Smith is not playing over Derek Barnett for the same reason DeAndre Swift got 2 touches in the Week 1 game. Coaches just sometimes do baffling things in terms of personnel management. I would like to see Nolan Smith on the field more than he has been as well.
Do you think that Swift also may not have been on the field the first week just because of his pass pro, just a lack of blocking? Because I do think, despite his 175-yard night, he did show vulnerability in pass protection. I mean, he did get run over. He was not really good in that. And Gainwell has done a little bit better. So I'm curious if that wasn't the initial reason, especially with playing Belichick, if he just didn't want to go with Gainwell just for more pass protection.
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but also Kenny Gainwell is not very good at pass blocking either. So
no, he just knows the offense infinitely better at this point.
Yeah. I mean, so to your point, in Week 2 against the Vikings, DeAndre Swift had 7 pass blocking snaps. He gave up 3 pressures and a sack in those. So not very good, but you look at Kenny Gainwell against New England, he only had 3 pass blocking snaps. There's not much there, but last year he had 40 and he gave up a sack and 6 pressures. So, I mean, that's a little better, but it's not ideal. So, okay, my X factor for this game. My X factor for the game is going to be Dallas Goedert. We saw Dallas Goedert get a little more involved. The Buccaneers run the highest zone coverage rate in the entire NFL. 87% of their snaps so far this year have been in zone coverage. Dallas Goedert's a zone coverage killer. I think this could be a big Dallas Goedert game. I think that the Eagles need to get him the ball. I would love to see that tight end screen game come back as well. We haven't seen a tight end screen all season, and Goedert was so good on those last year. But he did a lot of dirty work in the Thursday night game, in the run blocking game. Jack Stoll, too. I wish Ryan was here so I could say my player of the week was Jack Stoll for blocking 2 guys, one with each hand on an option run. That was great, and I'd love to see Ryan's face when I said that. But I think Dallas Goedert's the X factor. Get this guy involved. He did the dirty work Thursday. It's time to pay him off on Monday Night Football. Give Dallas Goedert a 100-yard game. Okay. Any other matchups or things that you guys want to highlight before we move on to our next segment?
Nope.
Everybody good?
Go to some comments real quick. We got a lot of comments.
Yeah, let's do it.
It says, what changes to the passing scheme are needed to deal with the pressure the Eagles are seeing? Any thoughts?
I think it's more reactionary is what's been happening. They've been being blitzed just constant. So they're just throwing who they have in there to add some more pass protection in there. It's not anything that they wanted to go into the game looking to do. I think it's more reactionary.
Yeah, just to give you an idea of how insane what the Vikings were doing was they had over a 40% max blitz rate and over a 40% drop 8 rate. Both of those were the highest rates since in the last 3 seasons, at least, in the same game. It was just insane. They were throwing the kitchen sink at him. I actually think some of the adjustments you want to see are there. I did an all 22 video, and I named it "Answers for the Blitz?" Because it's there at times and it's not there at times. But I think it's trending in a positive direction, to be honest. I think the blitz has not impacted the offense this year the way that it did last year.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts has grown so far since his rookie year with dealing with the blitz, man. It's just night and day. Do we think that's just a trend? Do you think we're going to be seeing that the rest of the season? Is that the blueprint to attack Jalen Hurts there?
To blitz?
To blitz Jalen Hurts, yes.
I don't think so. I mean, just based off the early returns, I think you can still get him on it, but I'm a lot more interested in this drop 8 into coverage. It's something the Bengals did to Mahomes a couple of years ago that was really effective. It hasn't really become like mainstream, but it's something the Vikings did to the Eagles with a lot of success. And I'm interested to see if teams will start looking at that a little more.
Yep. Quentin says, I'd like to see some creativity on offense, some misdirection. Absolutely. Mr. Rudy Poo says, play Sidney Brown. We need an enforcer. I'm sick of these arm tacklers. Is this the week we get more Sidney Brown?
I don't think so. No, I don't think they're going to play him, to be honest. I would be interested, though, long term. I mean, we know Avonte Maddox is probably out for the season. If they don't want to play Bradbury in the slot, I would love to see him put Sidney Brown in the slot. He played there a lot in college. He's great as a run defender, obviously not afraid to come downhill and hit. I'd love to see Sidney Brown get on the field in that role if they don't want to kick Bradbury inside.
Yeah, the real RM piece is Eagles are going to score 30 or more. I don't see Tampa Bay scoring over 23. And Mr. Rudy Poo says, I hope Jalen reviews that Bucs playoff game. Expect a lot of the same concepts. Need his payback. That's a good comment. I didn't even think of that when they just suffocated Jalen Hurts with the blitz. And their linebackers, the speed of their linebackers really caused a lot of problems there. That's a good comment. Anything else before we go to our next player of the game and score prediction segment? We good?
Oh, let's do it. Let's get into it. All right, let's get into it. Our Eagles player of the week and score predictions. Do we have our results from last week, Dibes?
Yeah, we do. Let's share my screen here. All right, so here are the score predictions. I nailed the total from week 2, so I'm going to give myself 4 points. Is that cool?
Yes.
I think you should get 0 points.
Of course you do. I guess who was close? Who was next? Anybody good at math on this show?
I don't. What was the final score? I don't even remember. I've watched a lot of all 22 since then. Okay, 34-28. I mean, I don't know. Are we going for like closest score, closest like margin? What are we looking for here?
I don't know.
David had it as an 11-point spread. I had it as a 7-point spread. Ryan's definitely last, although he got 34 for the Eagles. He was off by 11 for the. Yeah, I don't know how you weigh this out, to be honest.
Shane 3, me 2.
There it is. All right, going on to player of the game predictions from last week. Ryan let the Devontae Smith train keep rolling into week 2. Devontae, David had Jalen Hurts. Shane, you had Dallas Goedert and had AJ Brown. So that's clearly Devontae, correct?
Yeah. The 3 touchdowns for Hurts looks nice, but I mean, two of them are QB sneaks. So
Who would you say was the number 2 star?
I'd probably go Hurts too.
Okay. Hurts for David. And then I'll go Goddard number 3. Is that cool?
Sure. If
And then
Rashad Penny didn't hold, A.J. Brown probably would have been second instead
All
of
right.
last.
Ryan's got a commanding lead. So let's jump into week 3.
All right. Well, Ryan gets first dibs, and he already said offline here that he wanted to run Devonta Smith back. So Devonta Smith will be the player of the week prediction for Ryan. David, I'll let you go second here. Who's your player of the week prediction?
A.J. Brown.
Oh, that's who I was going to take. All right, A.J. Brown. Good pick there. Are we going to do score predictions at the same time here, or do we do that after?
Sure.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, what's your score prediction, David?
38-23 Eagles.
Wow.
All right, A.J. Brown and 38-23 Eagles. All right, so we've got the 2 receivers off the board. Dibes, unless you're taking Olamide Zaccheaus, who's your player of the week prediction?
I'm going to go with my gut in this one. First Monday night football game for Jalen Carter. I'm going to go 2 sacks for Jalen Carter. And, this game's all about, the defense creating turnovers, the defense creating plays. For me, I think Jalen Carter is the guy that forces, a turnover. He might not get 2 sacks, but I think Jalen Carter will have his first big moment to start off his NFL career on the biggest stage, Monday Night Football. So I'm going to go on the defensive side. I'm going to go Jalen Carter, unblockable. And then for a score prediction, I don't know if they score 38 points, but I'm kind of feeling the same thing, David. So for me, I'm going to go Eagles get the W 33-26. And
Ryan's score prediction, by the way, was 33-24 Eagles.
33-24. I think the Bucs will have probably a touchdown or 2 of garbage during garbage time. So I think the Eagles have a pretty convincing win here.
All right, that puts me up. It's tough because with both the receivers taken, if you take Jalen Hurts and he throws 3 touchdowns, but 2 of them are to the same receiver, that receiver wins player of the game. So just the fact that the receivers are all taken makes me not want to take Hurts. So I'm going to take Dallas Goedert. I'm going to run it back with Dallas Goedert. I do think he's so good against zone coverage. And I think they might try to pay him off for his blocking efforts. So give me Dallas Goedert. I picked him twice now. If he only gets 22 yards receiving, I'm never picking him again. But I'll take Dallas Goedert here. And then give me 31-13 Eagles. I think the Eagles come out off the mini bye. I think they've got time to get some things straightened out. I think they're the much better team, and I think they're going to be able to get to Baker Mayfield and get some pressure, rattle him a little bit. So I think this is the game where the Eagles fans afterwards sit back and they don't really have a lot to complain about. They just feel good.
Love it, man.
All right. Well, that is going to about wrap it up here on Birds of the Roundtable. A few more comments here. We've got player of the game, Carter.
Yes.
30-21 Eagles. We've also got a player of the game, Swift. And Quentin's not giving us a score. Quentin is he picking us to lose? Is this the thing?
He does that every week. Every week.
Yeah. I thought I remembered that. So, all right. Well, that is going to about wrap it up on Birds of the Roundtable. You guys be sure and tune in each and every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be live doing a show similar to this. Hopefully we'll have Ryan back with us next week. Although actually I'll be a late addition to the show next week because my son's got coach pitch the next 2 Tuesdays. But I'm going to put some video clips in that they can show, and I'll show up for the very end for the player of the week predictions. So keep it tuned to Edge of Philly Sports, Philly Sports Alliance, wherever you're watching the show. Smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you get that next show. We'll throw it around the horn here. Dives, tell the people what you've got going on, where they can find you, plug your stuff.
If you love college football, NFL draft, you can find me there. Always pumping out shorts and highlight reels and things like that. Biggest winners of the week in college football You can find that here on this channel. I put out probably about 5 or 6 winners every single week for the NFL draft. Guys, you should know. So be on the lookout for that. Party on Broad is tomorrow. We'll be heavily deep diving again into Eagles versus Bucs. Talk a little Sixers too. They made an interesting signing there. Definitely going to dab into that just a tad. I'll be producing Mike Small's show later this week. He's got a great guest, Bob Ryan, national, big time national face there, getting into all sorts of things. So that's about it.
All right, David, you're up. Plug your stuff. You got any pieces coming out? Let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me at Philly Cover Corner on the web and PHL Eagle News on Twitter. I'm not plugging anything right now, but I would like to mention one thing we didn't talk about, the little A.J. Brown Hurts dust up on the sideline. I am so glad that did not become an issue. I was waiting for Philly media to run with this. It never it was completely out of character as far as doing it during a game. I've seen them act similar in practice, so I wasn't completely surprised that, friends argue, friends do things like that. I'm glad that's all it turned out to be. I liked when AJ was walking off the field, you saw him mimic running his mouth and then touch himself like, I know I was, my bad. I shouldn't have been doing that. Took accountability for it. It became a non-issue before it ever was an issue. So that was really good to see, because this was back in the McNabb Owens days. This would have been month-long hell. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see that not become a big storyline.
Yes.
That's an issue. That's a thing because the camera caught it. Because I can promise you that happens on every sideline every week.
Absolutely.
And there's very few wide receivers that have a relationship with their quarterback like A.J. Brown does with Jalen Hurts that precedes playing even in the NFL together, much less on the same team together. So, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. That said, I would like for A.J. Brown to chill. Same thing in the Giants game last year. You're blowing out a team in the playoffs and he's upset on the sidelines. I would like for him to chill a little bit, but I really don't think it's ever going to become an issue.
No, I don't either. Hurts would never let it get to that. He just doesn't have that personality. He just never going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, be sure you guys are following Dibes on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Follow David on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. You can check me out on YouTube and Twitter at Shane Half NFL. Go check out my All 22 video, Answers to the Blitz. I think I walked through 13 or 14 plays and kind of showed how the Eagles countered that, both from a passing and a rushing perspective, and included a few negative examples in the passing as well. So you can go check that out. Also, my NFL wide podcast, Chalk Talk, will be going live in about 45 minutes. Mark and I will be breaking down every game in week 2. So come and check that out as well. Until then, we will catch you guys next week on Birds of the Round Table.